back here from Borio's Restaurant, 8891 McDonnells Parkway in Cicero, New York, right here on the water. Make sure you make it out to Borio's Restaurant. The only day they're not open is Monday, Sunday brunch. Don't miss out on that opportunity as well. They have shrimp with French toast, which is exactly how I would have it if I had
shrimp
them.
with French toast. Never heard of that.
You just bring it all together. You got seafood, breakfast. It's everything that you want on a Sunday. So I appreciate everything that they've done. Happy to have them part of the Dan Tortora Broadcast Media family, making possible this live show with Robert Drummond of Syracuse, the NFL and the CFL, here with Dan Tortora, and discussing a couple things off the air that I think it's only fair to do this on the air now. Best running backs of all time in the NFL. Top five.
For my first top five, my first pick would be Barry Sanders. For the simple fact that Barry Sanders, he ran with power, he ran with speed, he ran with finesse, he ran with grace. He didn't have a fullback in front of him. He was one of the original.
Didn't have anybody in front of him.
From this body, a single back formation.
Yeah.
He just ran. And I might be a little biased in this next one, but I have to go with Walter Payton. Walter Payton was one of my favorite backs. The same situation. Granted, he had a fullback in that situation, but Sweetness ran. He ran with desire. He ran with heart. And he just ran with pride. I mean, third on the list, as much as I'd have to pain myself to say it, but I'd have to go with Emmitt Smith. From the simple fact that coming out of high school and college, 8-Ball was always seen as one of the top tier running backs. But then he always performed. Granted, I think everybody in his offensive line, tight end and fullback included, are all in the Hall of Fame, with the exception of Moose Johnson, who should be in there. But he had a great line. But Darrell Johnson was one of those backs who just came downhill at you and just ran. Not Darrell Johnson. Emmitt Smith was one of the backs who just came down and just ran, got the job done. He was very, very complimentary back to the Cowboys duty at that point. Fourth and fifth would be hard to say, because my fourth running back, I have to say, if he had a longer career, he would have been a great back. But I have to say Bo Jackson, because Bo Jackson is one of the most explosive, phenomenal specimens, not just as a running back, as an athlete I've ever seen before. And if it wasn't for his shortened career, I think Bo Jackson would be mentioned as one of the elite running backs playing that have ever played the game in the NFL. And then last and not least, I'd have to go with possibly two running backs. One's my idol, and the other's former San Francisco 49er. But I picked Marcus Allen and Roger Craig for their versatility. Not only were they great runners, but they were also just as good at catching the ball out of the backfield. You can line them both up as a wide receiver and use them to create a problem for defenses. But that'd be my list of running backs, going down from the greatest running back, the top five. But definitely Barry Sanders being number one.
Eric Dickerson, Earl Campbell, not on your top five list. Where would they be?
Dickerson would probably be right there at 6, because he was mentioned. Dickerson would be 5, but for the simple fact he wasn't as versatile as Marcus Allen and Roger Craig. I think Roger Craig had 1,000 yards rushing and receiving. Marcus Allen played receiver at one point in college also. So just their versatility, as a running back, just makes me lean more toward them. Dickerson out of SMU, Craig James and the Pony Express. I don't know if you'll never remember that. Was just a straight pure runner. I love to see running backs run. That's what they do. They're running backs. But the versatility of running backs really is what drives me to let them know that they're just more than just runners. Because I was a versatile running back myself. 1,000 myself also in the Canadian Football League. But it's just something where Dickerson, he's not far behind. If they were a 6.7, Dickerson would be a 6.8. And what did you say? You said Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell was the same way. He was a bull of a running back, a bowling ball who you couldn't tackle. Great running back, but there was no versatility to him. Hand him the ball, move back and watch him run. You couldn't line him up. You're obviously geared just to run. What if the defense is shutting the run down there? Now, Marcus Allen and Roger Craig, you can use him in the passing game. You couldn't use Earl Campbell in the passing game. And that's just why I lean more towards those guys.
A guy like Marshall Faulk, even though he's a more recent back, a 21st century back, so to speak, he was the very versatile receiver, probably, I would venture to say, in the 21st century and even in the late part of the 90s, the best receiving / running back that there was in the league. Where would a guy like Marshall Faulk fit in history for you?
Marshall Faulk would definitely be in that top 10. The reason I say Roger Craig and Marcus Allen because they're my era. I mean, Marshall Faulk is every bit just as talented as they were. And Marshall Faulk, I think, had 1,000 also rushing and receiving. But when I watched Marshall Faulk, and I remember Marshall Faulk and watching him in college, my jaw would drop every time I would see a San Diego State game because he was just explosive and he was just one of the back and just getting the ball, just watching him explode in the field. But he would definitely be in the top 10 also. That versatile running back, he was a home run hitter, whether you threw him the ball or turned around and handed it to him.
Let's look at the league right now. Who would be the top 5 running backs in the NFL in this moment that are active?
In this moment, well, definitely Adrian Peterson. I mean, in the right situation, in the right frame of mind, Adrian Peterson, I don't care what team he's on, Adrian Peterson's going to get you 1,000.
Well, we know he's on Minnesota, he's making it work, so.
But I definitely go with Adrian Peterson. And then at that point, even watching the draft, you saw something in history that you really never see before. It's like running backs weren't a priority in the first round, second round either. I mean, like some of these very, very talented running backs slipped, and everyone wondered why. And I think the style of offense is changing now.
Yeah.
Not so much from college and the NFL. It's more of that West Coast running shoot offense where, look at Oregon, it's let's go fast, hurry. It's not turn around and give it to these bullish running back and just have them run for all these yards anymore. It's completely changing. I think the running back Charles out of Kansas City, after I watched these last couple of years of watching him play, explosive home run hitting back, and give you that hard nose yards you need to get the first down, or that be that home run threat. You can run for a lot of yards, and you need that touchdown. Another running back that really impressed me at this point, it's tough to say because Marshawn Lynch. Over the last couple of years, I mean, when I would have never said this 2-3 years ago when Marshawn Lynch was in Buffalo.
He came alive.
But watching Marshawn Lynch these past couple of years, and even like this last year with the Super Bowl run, what a great running back. He's running with heart. He's running with desire. It's as if now he's happy. When you see a player who's out there and they're happy, they play entirely differently. They play with heart. They play with drive. They play with desire. They play with the ability as if they did, or the kindness in their heart, I should say, when they were kids. When you were a kid, you loved to play the game. That's why you played it. These guys now, they're getting all this money, but they're playing because they love to play it. Marshawn Lynch is playing the game because he loves to play the game. And every other running back right now, and at the same, I like LaShawn McCoy, but he's not that power back. What you like to see, he's more that scat back who can get you those yards every now and then. But I need to see running back that has every intangible, whether it be the power, the speed, the breakaway ability, the breaking tackles, to get that hard nose yards when they need to. Those are the running backs that I need to encompass. It's got to be everything. It can't just be one thing out there that separates the running back. And it's hard to find a running back out there nowadays that does everything.
Well, I think it is. I mean, when you go down the line, and you look at DeMarco Murray and you wonder what he could be because he doesn't get the ball enough. LaShawn McCoy doesn't get the ball enough. Steven Jackson in Atlanta, does he stay healthy? And where does he go from there? Tampa Bay has had a bunch of players that were on 3rd, 4th, 5th string that you don't even think about. They're involved in trades that end up coming out of the woodwork. So there really aren't a lot of teams, even teams that are true to just one back. And I think if we go anywhere and we talk about a team that is dedicated to one running back, there is a very small list, and it starts with Adrian Peterson, but it doesn't go very far.
No, it does not.
And I think that's something that we've seen as a change in this world as well. Is you talk about Earl Campbell, Eric Dickerson, Emmitt Smith, all these guys. It was just them. And now in the world that we live in, there's 2, if not 3, if not 4 running backs that are being utilized. Did you ever think that this was going to be the NFL's world, that your 3rd string guy is going to play every game potentially?
The way the game was going, how strong, big, strong, fast, athletic the athletes are getting, there's no one running back that can really handle that pounding. There's certain running backs that, as I said before, very versatile, that have great hands, but they're not that superb runners. There's certain running backs that have they're superb runners, but don't have that vice versa. That's the hands. There's some that are good blockers. There's some that pick up blitzes better. Every running back has a niche about him. And if you can get one encompassing all those talents together, and then you get someone like Adrian Peterson who can basically do them all. They don't use him in the receiving game, but he has very, very good hands. So it's definitely a game that's changed where you got guys that are situational backs that they call them. Come in, all right, we're going to be a running down, you definitely come in. All right, it's going to be a passing down, you definitely come in the block. All right, or it's going to be a receiving down, okay, you come in to catch a pass. So that's what it looks like the game's getting towards.
One team that has confused me since they've returned in '99, the Cleveland Browns. Now,
No.
I don't think they came back yet, but the Dog Pound has had talent. They've had Jamal Lewis coming off of Baltimore, who had been a good back. They've had different guys in there at different times, but it seems like nothing really seems to shake out. They had Bobby Rainey, who they let go to Tampa Bay, and he was a fantasy football dream for all these guys and women around the country and the world to play fantasy football. But it seems like in Cleveland, there's no real direction, and they go after Willis McGahee, but they never really seem to draft a back and build in a back, and in the past, to draft a Jim Brown if Ernie Davis had stayed alive. It seems like they've switched completely, and they kind of go for other teams' scraps now.
I think Cleveland's problem is that everyone says that Cleveland is cursed from the whole back in the day where they had
There should be a draft back.
what they call the fumble.
Yeah.
The fumble down the goal line where they could have possibly beaten the Denver Broncos. And since then, I think Cleveland for some reason feels that they're cursed. But it's like what they have to understand is that that's not that Cleveland team. Right now that's the Baltimore Ravens. That curse will not be on that Cleveland team. So just go out there and, as you said before, they're not drafting the backs. They're not drafting the personnel that could possibly put them in the position to win games and be a dominant team. Granted, they took Johnny Manziel, but what people fail to realize is that they had 2 draft picks before they actually took Manziel. Then they traded up to get him. I'm like, wow, you could have waited till the 3rd round and probably got Manziel. So now Manziel is coming in as a 3rd-string quarterback, and he's got his other 2 starters in front of him, and all this fanfare is going towards Manziel. I mean, it's like, you don't have an offensive line to block for him. This young man's going to get pounded. Do you expect to put him on the field right now and have him perform miracles? I didn't know he was running thorns in his head last night. Good luck, but it's like, Cleveland, I think it's a great draft on paper, but eventually someday that paper is going to be just what it is, just a piece of paper. You have to translate that with what they do on the field. And this is the NFL. This is not the Little League anymore. This is not college football anymore. This is not Division III, Division I AA, and Division II. These are the big boys. These are the best of the best. That's why they're in the NFL. If Cleveland get good, they're going to have to start from the inside out. And I say by inside out, I mean start from the offensive line and work your way out, because unless you protect those guys, they make all those touchdowns, they make all those runs, they make all those passes, you're not going to get anything done. You look at any good successful team and look at the nucleus of why they're good. They're starting with a super quarterback, very good offensive line, very good interior defense. That's every team. Look at Seattle.
Absolutely, and I think that when you're on a team and you have something really good on one side, you may not have to have the top talent on the other side. I mean, if you do, it's great. But look at a team like the Patriots, where their backfield is always the usual suspects. I mean, it's a bunch of random guys. They come together in that moment to do what they need to do. But I mean, they've had everything from Fred Taylor before he retired to just picking whatever they could, getting guys in the draft 4th, 5th round. And if you're good for a year, if you're able to give them what they need for a little bit of time, they don't really need you after that, and they just move on. But, I mean, if we look at the New England Patriots and name running backs the last 5 years, we could probably get to 20 people.
Yeah, we could easily get to 20 people.
But they have Tom Brady. And in other cases, like a team that, teams that are able to kind of function, that it's running back dominant, and then that makes the team, they really don't see that anymore. I mean, Emmitt Smith can make the Cowboys look great. Barry Sanders on an awful Detroit Lions team always made games interesting. But you can't say that Maurice Jones-Drew, who had 1,600 yards, made Jacksonville look good. No. We can't say that, some of the other guys out there, if you looked at a Warwick Dunn, that he made Atlanta a phenomenal team without a Matt Ryan. You can't really say that about anybody anymore. And even with the Colts, they had a terrible backfield, and they found a way to win a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. So it almost seems like as long as you have the quarterback, you're good. But if you somehow slip upon both, then you're in a place that's a different world for you. You played running back. Have you had to admit to yourself that it's a passing league now? I mean, it's different.
It is a passing league now. Now, if you're a run-dominant first team now, you're not going too far. You might make it to the playoffs, but you're not going far. You have to be able to throw the ball to get those tough hurry yards. And the reason you have to be able to throw the ball because the defense has gotten that much better. I mean, these front seven now can completely control and shut down the running game. So you have to be able to pass the ball. And these guys need pressure on the ball also. So you have to have receivers that can cover, DBs that can cover these receivers coming out, because now these receivers are bigger, stronger, faster. You know, Andre Johnson, you know, Calvin Johnson out of Detroit. You know, these guys are big, strong type receivers who basically can jump over these defensive backs. You know, so it's a league definitely with passing the ball will win you a championship. Passing the ball, having a stout defense.
Now, Jacksonville is one of those teams that's needing a lot of work.
They have a team too?
We're not going there. So, yeah, they got a team. So, they lose Maurice Jones-Drew Oakland, right? Maurice obviously wasn't happy there whenever he's gone. You would think that they would draft a running back because they got Toby Gerhart, who's really a fullback, that they pulled from Minnesota. In the 7th round, they get Storm Johnson out of Central Florida. But what did they do with their first 3 picks? Quarterback, receiver. They got Blake Bortles at quarterback out of UCF. They got Marquise Lee out of USC, and then they traded up to get Penn State's Allen Robinson. Talking about what we just talked about, knowing that they didn't replace Fred Taylor necessarily with Maurice, because I don't think he was as good, and then having Maurice and not really replacing him with anybody right now, do you think they still made the right decision, agreeing on what the league is, that they went quarterback, receiver?
I think they made the smartest decision they could possibly make. You know, they're prepared, and they set themselves up for the future. They got their big, strong-arm quarterback who's going to learn this year, you know, and then they got the 2 big, strong-body receivers that can flat out fly and play the game that he's going to throw to. That's going to be a combination in the NFL for a long time. It's basically the same thing that the Indianapolis Colts did, you know, with Marvin Harrison on the one side and Reggie Wayne on the other side, you know, with Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
When they came into the league and they just basically took the league by storm and went up and down the field. So this league, I mean, the Jacksonville Jaguars understand which way this league is geared toward and which way this league is headed, and they prepared this one pretty well for it.
Talking about running backs and also where they sit right now. In history, there's some great ones. There's still some good ones around. But as of right now, it's a passing league in the NFL. Rob Drummond of the NFL, the CFL, and the Syracuse Orange, last undefeated team, came with Rob Drummond in the backfield. I'm Dan Tortora for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com. And we're live from Borio's Restaurant on the Water in Cicero, 8891 McDonnells Parkway in Cicero, New York. Make sure you come out because the menu and the view give you something that you can't find anywhere else. And they give you Rob Drummond and I every single month. We'll be back here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in just a few minutes.